Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, hey, welcome into the program. Today on the show, we have computer and technology news for the entire segment. We have everything from a $100,000 chicken nugget. I don't know, it's something about food that looks like different icons that really gets people going. You know, whether it's a Jesus face, kind of imprinted on a grilled cheese sandwich, whether it's some other kind of food that just resembles something a little bit too much. Well, we're going to talk about what this chicken nugget looks like and why it's selling for $100,000. It's pretty crazy. We have that. We have some Supreme Court rulings that are going to have lasting effects for people out there. And of course, we're going to have some news about E3 and the upcoming announcements, though we'll of course wait for that to actually unveil here. And E3 should be starting here in about 2 weeks. And we'll be sure to cover that as best we can because, it is an online only E3. So it is what it is. We have that, including some more news about Google. And one of the most ironic parts of it in this story is that, of course, Google's diversity head has been removed for anti-Semitic blogging. I don't know what it is about a little bit of irony, but it really spices things up. So everyone, hello in the chat room, hello out there. If you're listening to us live on IRN, hello there too. And of course, if you're listening to us on the podcast, wherever podcasts are heard, hey, we thank you so much. So before we get started, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything that we do, past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, reviews, videos, links to social media, everything and anything can be found at Computer America. While you're there, be sure to check out everything that we have written and done over the past couple of weeks. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else to announce, but no, I hope everyone out there is having a great Thursday. Obviously, it's been a great short week. And we're looking forward to, of course, coming back next week. And but we're also looking forward to the weekend. So everyone, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. So check this one out. This is this is going to be a fun project that an artist made, and I really like it when artists try to be a little bit more technology focused, obviously for what we do here, but using technology in different ways, and really it's almost scientific in the way that they're doing it, and it's a really, really great blend. Well, this is an article from Vice, their motherboard section, which is of course all about technology. Ms. Geeta Jackson is writing about this, but essentially, an army of 100 bots is reading climate change news and clicking every ad along the way, which is something that I think a lot of people out there would never do. Yeah, think about that. Clicking every ad along the way. And they said, I'm sorry. Wow. Okay, ignore that. Synthetic Messenger, a project from artists Tega Brain and Sam Levine, uses bots to make climate change news more visible. So, let's go ahead and talk about this in an echoey Zoom call with 4 full pages of participants. And you can see an image here, kind of what that looks like. Yeah, there's a lot of participants, i.e. about 100 of them. And they say that they are clicking every ad along the way while they're at it to support the publication. Although that seems obviously a little deceptive, because this is, by definition, a bot, and that's not good for clicks. Still, they're saying that they're relying on these bots to make climate change news more visible. And they're saying that on the internet, what news articles one sees is partially dependent on algorithm. In the most basic sense, what you click on when you search for something on a website like Google will increase its visibility in that particular search. Makes sense, because obviously these algorithms are saying that someone has a question, someone has some kind of interest, and let's say it's about boats. You Google boats, and suddenly one of the websites that the majority of people click on is maybe a Wikipedia article about boats, or it's a website totally dedicated to different kinds of boats. Very relevant search result for a relevant search. The algorithm is going to take that into account, and a number of other things, including like bounce, retention, because if you have, let's say you look for boats, but then you have a website that says, we are boats and everything boats, and then you click on it, and turns out, no, it's actually a bait and switch, and it's all about RVs instead. Well, yeah, the bounce rate's going to be very high. People are going to click off. They're not going to spend much time on there, and therefore that option will actually, or that that website will actually go down in the search results. So, because people realize, or at least the algorithm realizes that, even though it matches a lot of keywords and stuff, it's just not that important to what people are searching for. So there's a lot of metrics that go into this, and I think time spent on page, clicks, reading, advertising never hurts, obviously for the publication themselves, but overall, what they're doing makes a bit of sense. But at the same time, to call it art and to call it a project, this is more like bots. And, bots have been used in publication, and they're actually a huge problem when it comes to kind of page views, traffic, that kind of thing. They are a very big problem. And for them to kind of say that this is art to, promote the things that we want. No, they're running a bot farm. They're just running a bot farm in front of everyone. Very confusing why, this is, kind of a good thing, but let's read on. So they say that Synthetic Messenger, which is again the name of this project, is a visual representation of one way of combating that. This project uses bots to interact with news articles about climate change in an attempt to help make those articles more visible. According to the website's description, every day these bots search for climate change news, and then 100 bots will visit each article and click on every ad. You can also see a list of all the articles that the bots are reading in case you wanted to visit them too. I don't know if that's really the way to do it. This is, I think that if they're too robotic, if they're too bot-like, then actually the algorithm will detect that, there's a lot of fake and false traffic going on here. Don't promote this particular source. So it's, not the smartest thing in the world, and I don't know why they're doing it. It seems really counterintuitive to promoting this, because again, if it shows a lot of bot traffic, they're going to say something squirrely here. Anyways, the two artists have told Motherboard that algorithms are affecting all news. Fossil fuel industry lobbyists and interests have been very successful in circulating misinformation, and they have an example of the arson stories in the Australian wildfires last year that were amplified by bots and trolls. To combat that, and by the way, these bot armies and these these trolls, they hold botnets that are thousands or tens of thousands strong. I don't know what their 100 bot army is going to do. And they also continue to say that there is both manipulation of how stories are circulated in a largely automated media environment, and also the manipulation of certain conventions in journalism, saying the desire to give a balanced view on our dire environmental situation has meant that completely false doubt and denial has been given as much airtime as climate science is saying. And yeah, that is a tradition in journalism, and actually, one of the more ethical things to do. That, if you give one side enough of the story, you have to give the opposite side enough airtime. Makes perfect sense when it comes to, kind of the pros and cons of, let's say, nuclear energy. But it doesn't make as much sense when, the hard facts are that the planet is warming up, weather events are getting more erratic, and clearly, climate change is happening and being caused by fossil fuels. And the opposite side of that is, of course, denialism and, just false claims. So that's where you kind of get into the sticky situation where, the truth is, the need to broadcast the truth is unfortunately having to be weighed against, giving doubt and pessimism the equal amount of airtime, but still. Now, they mentioned that the visual aspect of synthetic messenger is for the benefit of the visitors to the site. Being in that Zoom call is pretty eerie. As each bot reads an article, you can hear a disembodied voice say "click scroll" with dozens of voices overlapping each other. Sounds like they're and looks like they're about to explain this. The bots would be more efficient if they were not in the Zoom call. In fact, they don't need to visualize their activity at all. We wanted to create an experience for the audience of what these artificial agents are doing. The sound and experience are pretty emergent. We had friends donate recordings of their hands and voices, and every time the bot scrolls or click, they talk. Overall, this feels like a very negative thing. And let's see, we can probably go to the website right here, which we'll go ahead and mute that and actually duplicate it, mute it again. Yeah, there we go. And throw it up here on the site. And, they have, essentially, this is, again, all about climate change, climate science. It's a botnet that artificially inflates the value of climate news. And again, I guess the reason that they're trying to do this is to, again, kind of fight the bots on the other side. The bots on the other side are much, much bigger. But by them broadcasting, total ads clicked, 1 million ads clicked, the number of bots active, this whole thing, it's a very... the whole thing is like a very scummy practice. And to say that they're just trying to balance out the scales are so far tipped in the other direction that doing something like this is, really not even making a dent, and overall is probably hurting these publications more than they are helping. So there you go. We're going to go ahead and navigate away from this, but to call a botnet farm an art project is, really, really something that I just don't agree with. But okay, now how about something else that I don't agree with? Let's see. Something else I don't agree with. I really wanted to move on to this next one, but okay, actually, here's one. Turns out it's not just the nice folks over in Utah that are having a problem with pornography. Turns out it's actually Canada is doing the same thing as well. And this time actually from their Senate, saying that, and it's so weird that pornography is this industry that is so morally reprehensible to a large part of the population that it gets all these special regulations and all these special considerations. And it's like, it's still going to exist. It's still going to be there. You're just kind of wedging yourself between people and the content that exists legally online. So let's go ahead and talk about this, saying that requiring proof of age to look at online porn raises privacy issues, Senate committee hears. Saying that if adequate privacy measures aren't taken, the age verification process could increase the risk of revealing adults' private browsing habits, the privacy commissioner said. Because obviously, the number one way to make sure that people who aren't supposed to look at pornography, and that's obviously people who are underage, and don't look at pornography, the best way would be to, require a driver's license to do that. But requiring, kind of government ID to visit a site like that means that they would have to store it, check it, that whole thing, which would be, privacy nightmare 101, because they would then have to take care of all that data that they would have to collect, that the government would mandate them to collect. So let's talk about what Canadians are doing and their big problem, their bone to pick. Let's go ahead and say that. Now, legislation that would require Canadians to verify their age before they could look at online pornography could result in a number of privacy concerns. Bill S-203, which was introduced last fall, doesn't specify what the verification would look like, which is, one of the big concerns if you are going to introduce legislation like this. You think you would at least have, well, what are you going to do? And they're like, oh, we'll figure it out later. Just do it. Options under consideration include presentation of some type of ID to a third-party company or organization, which, or the use of technology such as biometrics or artificial intelligence to estimate age. Yes, biometrics or artificial intelligence. AI is not that good at doing something like this. I've never heard of an AI program being used that way. It really does seem like AI is currently being used as like a big old Band-Aid that's like, oh, we'll figure something out. We'll use AI. Slap a Band-Aid on it and walk away. I doubt it's going to work like that by any means. Still, if adequate privacy measures aren't taken, the age verification process could increase the risk of revealing adults' private browsing habits. He told the Senate and Constitutional Affairs Committee that current digital age verification systems are all different, but what they have in common is that the user will ultimately be required to provide some amounts of personal information. That brings up questions about how secure that information is. And I can guarantee you it's not going to be good. At some point, a system is going to be leaked, and it all makes you wonder, why are they doing this? How big of a problem is it? That's something that I have not really heard. Like, I'm not saying that pornography for kids is a good thing. I'm saying that how prevalent is it, and is it really a government type issue, or is it a, at-home personal responsibility, parental guidance kind of issue? That is, that's kind of my take on it. But yeah, the government seems to be very morally obligated to wedge themselves in here. Now, they're saying that, on the other hand, the use of biometrics or facial recognition to verify or estimate a user's age raises unique privacy concerns, saying that biometric technology is generally very intrusive, which it very much is, especially if, the idea of, wanting to visit a pornography site, and then the site saying, before you can go there, they say, oh, turn on your webcam so we can verify who you are. Boy, that sounds awful in so many ways. And they also mentioned, and yeah, I was just thinking of all the inappropriate pictures that those webcams would probably take. Still, they're saying that it's not even accurate in verifying an individual's age, and yeah, they still are considering it. He said that there's a considerable margin of error, and an error of 2 to 3 years could be significant depending on the age of the person. Obviously, someone who is 18 and would be perfectly legal to look at material like that, might not look that different than their peers who are 17. Like, it's not some magic flip of switch that as soon as you hit 18 years, there's something facially different about you. It's, and obviously you could then trick it, I'm sure, in so many ways, because the hardware would be, The hardware would not be standard, and I'm sure that even just holding up a picture of someone who is clearly of age would be enough to bypass something like this. So they said that the bill would also allow the government to order internet providers to block porn sites in some cases. Yeah, I don't know. It's that's also a tricky situation because obviously Canada is not really known as the content hosting provider of the world, and being able to block servers and content outside of their own country would prove to be very, very difficult. Think about things like VPNs. It would, completely bypass that altogether. Now, they say that, obviously about those companies that host that site, we won't be able to sanction them or prosecute them because they're not in Canada. That's why we wouldn't act directly on the platforms, on the sites, but rather on the internal signal distributors like Bell and Videotron, who distribute the signal of these sites, i.e., they're going to go after the internet service providers, and we have already seen how. Well, and again, this is all in Canada, but at least here in the US, we've seen how not very effective allowing, ISPs to be the arbiters of content. They get it wrong very often. They're not very effective, even when they do get it right, because, they still have to wonder, are we getting the right person? It's a problem that is probably not best solved through internet service providers because they're supposed to be like your utility. They are, your internet provider. They're not supposed to be, the kind of the police of the internet. Their job should be to build out the network that you can then connect to. If they want to have some kind of moral police, kind of running around on this, that's probably best handled from another directive because those companies are just not set up that way to do that. Now, they said that obviously the same issue was identified before, and they said that Canadian law may not apply to the website, even though its head office is in Montreal. So this has happened before, even with content that is hosted in Canada, but then can't be seen in Canada. Hey, looks like they even have issues there. So this bill would allow the government to issue notices to ISPs that would require the internet service provider to take any steps specified in the notice. It does not detail what the steps could include. So what actually happens if you are found guilty of doing this? And you can have a fine that fines for those who make available pornography on the internet to a young person. So, i.e., the person who pays the internet bill for that minor would face up to $20,000 fine, 6 months in jail, or for any kind of corporation that would do this. So let's say if they're at a university or they're looking at pornography on some other kind of network, $250,000 to $500,000 per offense. And they said that the way to avoid the fine would be to put in place an unspecified age verification method, which again they're looking at things like hocus pocus like AI and biometric data, which just sounds so awful. Now, obviously, they're saying that this is a free expression concern because it creates a high bar for adults to access legal content, and saying that it also creates a privacy concern because it compels them to disclose their habits. There you go. They also say that website blocking should be a last resort, if at all, and it is not structured this way in the bill because obviously just blocking these websites, there's thousands of ways to get around any kind of blocks that would actually happen. Every time pornography comes up, and clearly as an industry, it's not going anywhere. The internet was built on the backbone of pornography. It's not the most talked about part of it. But we have seen is one of the most visited parts of the internet. Not one of the most talked about. It's not glamorous. It's not very couth to talk about. But for some reason, they're so hesitant to take it down, but they're so ready to legislate it to the nth degree, all to protect the children. I don't know. It always rubs me the wrong way whenever these conversations get too close to taking away basic privacy rights of people. And it's going to affect everyone because they want to save just a couple of unspecified quote-unquote minors from accessing this content. I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of it. So they're also saying that protecting children against pornography is both a health and public safety issue. Exposing minors, especially boys, to online porn is associated with a number of harmful effects: addiction, aggressive sexual behaviors, fear, anxiety, and, of course, an increased view of sexist belief. So, the right way to approach that, again, to me, is, in the home, in education, knowing why it's wrong, knowing the difference between pornography and reality. That whole thing seems like such a better way to approach this than to try to legislate and bend technology companies to your will to make this, to make it inaccessible. Because at some point, it's going to be accessible. It used to be weird magazines under a bridge somewhere, and now with essentially every kid over the age of 13, I assume, having a smartphone, it's going to get circulated one way or another, and education is definitely going to be, at least in my point of view, the number one approach. So, anyways, let's go ahead and move on from this topic and move on to something a little bit lighter. And how about, in terms of lightness, how about the weight of a chicken nugget? If you haven't heard of the game Among Us, you were quarantining super hard about 6 months ago, and Among Us is still super popular, because it's, it's this video game of kind of intrigue, kind of whodunit kind of deal. There's crewmates, they have to do different jobs. There's an alien who runs around killing them as they do those jobs. And it's kind of a social deduction game, who was where, who did what. Obviously the person who got killed can't talk. And it's, it's the goal to either find the imposter or, hey, kill all the crewmates. It's a lot of fun, and it's led to a lot of people playing this game, watching this game. And another touchstone for a lot of people here, I assume, is the traditional, McDonald's chicken nugget. And McDonald's Among Us shaped chicken nugget is now currently worth $99,897. So just a hair under $100,000. And there's 183 bids placed, and still, as of the time of this reading, it's going to close Friday at 3. So there's still 10 hours left if you would like to nab this particular nugget. And we'll go ahead and throw up the the actual eBay thing here. And by the way, the conditions, if you'd like to see, is listed as used because obviously it was found in a McDonald's. So, eBay seller posted an auction with the catchy title McDonald's Among Us shaped nugget from BTS meal. With 12 hours left, it had 183 bids, and again, as of right now, it still has that. So, the seller said the nugget will be frozen and then air sealed to ensure freshness before shipping, and McDonald's nuggets are formed into 4 classic shapes. And by the way, it was big news when McDonald's went from 3 to 4 by bringing back a classic. There you go. So it's there's an extra incentive for fans of South Korean pop bands BTS, which partnered with McDonald's for some unique meal packages. The nugget came from one of those meals. And again, which shape this actually came from is a little unknown because they're saying it could have been a misshapen bone or a misshapen boot. But who knows? Now, they say that the seller, who goes by a number of names, saying that wasn't the first one on the auction site, but the Nugget has an unmistakable correlation with the actual character, even including an odd bump in the back that would represent the backpack. Humans are very good at I'm sure humans are very good at many things, but one thing that they're very good at is pattern recognition. And, you can watch plenty of documentaries to find out why that is. Everything from, kind of identifying, people that to, plants and food and survival and that whole thing. Anyways, humans are very good at pattern recognition, but saying that a chicken nugget looks like a video game character, I mean, clearly it's all there, but are we all there, really? Now, the high-flying auction has attracted quite a few other like it. There are ones that have reached $50,000 and top $14,000 in bids. The official Among Us Twitter has actually shared the auction, which, the actual Twitter account, you can see right there. It's pretty crazy. So obviously they have realistic expectations, saying that I would figure I would get around $50, but nothing like this. At the end of the day, there are some people out there who would pay some absurd price for a McDonald's chicken nugget, but I don't think the final bidder will actually go through with the purchase, as there are lots of people who bid on these things for the memes. And I think if he wanted to start a meme, he certainly did it. He did a good job. Now, the Nugget auction has turned into, there we go, a little typo in the article, turned into a fun adventure for the seller. I think we have to wrap it up there, because what else can he say? He even mentioned that if you actually buy the Nugget, a little value added, if you'd like, if you actually buy the Nugget, he will include the sauce for free. So a little value added to this $100,000 chicken nugget. It's pretty fun. Pretty, very different. Not just pretty different, very different. But yeah, you can check that out there. Okay, let's see. So plenty of other stories that we can talk about here. Actually, there was a Supreme Court ruling that I wanted to kind of get to. And, Supreme Court has so much to do with tech policy, what people can do in these kinds of things, that I always like to cover them. So this one, Ars Technica, John Brodkin, saying that Supreme Court limits the reach of hacking law that the United States used to prosecute Aaron Swartz. So the Supreme Court issued a ruling today that imposes a limit on what counts as a crime under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. So the court wrote that Nathan Van Buren, a former police sergeant, ran a license plate search in a law enforcement computer database in exchange for money. Van Buren's conduct plainly flouted his department's policy, which authorized him to obtain database information only for law enforcement purposes. Now, he said that we must decide whether Van Buren also violated the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which makes it illegal to access a computer with authorization and to use such access to obtain or alter information on that computer, on the computer that the accessor is not entitled to obtain or alter. So essentially, again, the question there, what makes it illegal, is this question of what makes it illegal to access a computer and authorize it. And then, of course, if you access it, are you allowed to obtain or change the information on there? He did not. The provision covers those who obtain information from particular areas in the computer, such as files, folders, or databases to which their computer access does not extend. It does not cover those who, like Van Buren, have improper motives for obtaining information that is otherwise available to them. So, they said that, to continue the quote a little bit, the parties agree that that Van Buren accessed the law enforcement database system with authorization, The only question is whether he could use the system to retrieve license plate information. Both sides agree that he could, and accordingly did not exceed the authorized access to the database as the CFAA defines that phrase. Even though he obtained the information from the database for an improper purpose, we therefore reverse the contrary judgment and remand the case for further proceeding consistent with the opinion. So I guess the final opinion was he had access, he could obtain the information. Why he obtained the information, that's obviously a government policy and a police department policy question. But did he have access, and was it, was it legal for him to be tried in doing this? That's where they now have to take it back to the lower courts to argue. And by the way, for those who don't know, Van Buren caught in an FBI sting. The disputed computer access occurred after he asked a man named Andrew Albo after he asked a man for a loan. And Albo secretly recorded the conversation and took it to the local sheriff's office where he complained that he had sought to shake him down for cash. And the FBI got involved and devised an operation in which Albo would ask Van Buren to search the state law enforcement computer database for a license plate purportedly belonging to a woman who he had met at a club. Albo, no stranger to legal troubles, would tell Van Buren that he wanted to ensure that the woman was not in fact an undercover officer, and in return for the search, he would pay around $5,000. So, all that being said, Swartz committed suicide in 2013 when he was being prosecuted under CFAA for downloading over 4 million academic journal papers from JSTOR over MIT's computer network. So, yeah, they're saying that the ruling radically restricts the scope of the law. Essentially, violating the CFAA is punishable by fines and imprisonment. The law also provides for civil liability as well as damages. Now, the ruling, they're saying it could have big effects on what it actually applies to. They're saying that but has since expanded to cover any information from any computer used in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce or communication. As a result, the prohibitions now applies at a minimum to all information from all computers that connect to the internet. Essentially, they're not, they can't just slap the CFAA ruling on everything that is affecting a computer and prosecute people, for 10 years for, lots of monetary damages. No, they have to make sure that the person is gaining access, who would otherwise not have access. If they have access to a database, that they normally would, then this wouldn't apply. But yeah, and that's the big ruling. That's the big change. What applies in what situation and why. So there you go. And by the way, they said that the whole case, fun fact, actually hinged on the word "so." There you go. I think we're gonna wrap that up there. But good ruling. I mean, Sometimes I don't agree with the Supreme Court in their takes on technology, but it seems like they were very knowledgeable in this. And yeah, it seems like they did a very good thing. So there you go. Let's go ahead and talk about the meat supplier just real quick. One little update, again, from Ars Technica. But looks like we now have, who done it. This meat supplier and how it knocked them offline for like 2 days or something like that. They said that this was the work of a criminal gang known as REvil or REvil. And and they're saying it's ransomware's most cutthroat gang. And they said that the franchise, it's known for its ever-escalating series of cutthroat tactics designed to extort the highest price. So whereas the pipeline one was all about, we didn't mean to cause that much damage, we're sorry for, causing trouble, that whole thing. No, these guys are probably going to ante up and, keep applying the pressure as much as they can. They're saying that in some respects, REvil is a pioneer, being one of the early adopters of publicly blogging victims and leaning heavily into the double extortion side of things. They were also early experimenters with auctioning off stolen data. Some auctions were successful, some were not, but potentially stolen data from select victims would have been available to the highest bidder. They mentioned that in one case, REvil dark web site posted a screenshot purporting to show that pornography was present in temporary file folders on a computer belonging to IT director of a large company that had recently fallen victim. So essentially, they were going to publicly shame an IT director of a large company if they didn't pay their ransom. So there you go. Yeah, and obviously those are, kind of more negotiations that they, or more tactics they use in negotiations. They try to find the most damning and scandalous information that they can and then hold it over their heads. By the way, this group, they are also the group that hacked Grubman, Shire, Sachs. Let's see, they have a celebrity law firm that represents Lady Gaga, Madonna, U2, and other top-flight entertainers. They demanded $21 million in return for not publishing the data, and they reportedly offered $365,000. They responded by upping the demand to $42 million and later publishing a 2.4 gigabyte archive containing some legal documents belonging to Lady Gaga. So, yeah, there's a lot of, there's a lot of people who will do anything for money. And it seems like these guys are, actually kind of, a gang that will do exactly that. And they seem very good at what they do and being able to, do that. So it's not good that this is the group that, gained access to JBS, and I'm glad that JBS was able to get everything working again. And they said that production began again at US-based JBS plants on Wednesday, though thousands of workers in US, Canada, and Australia had shifts adjusted or canceled earlier this week. Such ransomware attacks continue to expose the fragility of the country's supply chains in the public and private sectors, which we have seen now with that pipeline. We've seen it with local state governments. We've seen that with education. We've seen that now with beef and food. There's a lot of systems that, we kind of rely on and depend on, but we don't really think of them classically traditionally as a high cybersecurity target. But we're going to have to change that idea here soon. Okay. All right. Another little update article. Huawei. If you're in the US, you're not really too familiar. Huawei has tried to make it into the country a number of times. No carrier would carry them because the US government has said that, they're a spying risk. And, rightfully so, most likely. They are heavily involved in China, and, Huawei is really what are they now? The third biggest producer of phones outside, in the world. Even without tapping into the US market, they're still doing very, very well. Well, between China and America, there are tensions. And something that happened last year under the previous administration, you had executive orders passed around that China could not use software made by an American corporation. And so Google, being an American corporation, and since they develop Android, Huawei, a Chinese-based company, could not use the Android operating system. Now, here's the thing. Open source software is called open source software for a reason. And even though Huawei built this up and they were, super excited, they were like, we're building our own operating system from scratch. Everything's going to work. It's going to be even better than Android. Yeah. Well, it turns out HarmonyOS is here, and it's also just Android. So they say that Huawei officially kicked off the launch of HarmonyOS, its in-house operating system and replacement for Android. The company announced a new watch, a new tablet, and a new phone powered by HarmonyOS. The company also said that it would be updating a massive list of 100 different Huawei Android phone models to HarmonyOS over the next year. From a programming standpoint, if you had to tell me that I had to transition 100 different pieces of hardware, old pieces of hardware that were probably designed from the ground up to be Android devices, and make them work on a completely different operating system, and make them all compatible, from all different, from many, many, many past years, I would conjecture that's impossible. You really can't do that. But they're claiming to do that, and obviously Huawei looks like it has two completely different operating systems that it calls HarmonyOS. First is the IoT and smartwatch version of HarmonyOS, which is based on LightsOS and is open source. And the second version of HarmonyOS is for phones and tablets and is a fork of Android and uses the Linux kernel. Although Huawei is very reluctant to admit this, though it makes all the sense in the world with the compatibility that they are boasting about. And yeah, having what seems like two totally different operating systems share the same brand name leads to a lot of confusion, and you can make a lot of claims about the IoT versions of HarmonyOS that don't apply to the phone version. So, TechCrunch spoke to Huawei and reported Huawei denied speculation that HarmonyOS is a derivative of Android and said no single line of code is identical to that of Android. A spokesperson for Huawei declined to say whether the operating system is based on Linux, the kernel that powers Android. There you go. So by saying that no single line of code is shared between Android and HarmonyOS, that's patently false, because you can go into the source code of HarmonyOS and you can see things actually still named Android. Happens all the time. They also mentioned that the company said that the complete opposite thing to the German site ComputerBase, which quotes Huawei's software president as saying, to make sure our existing users can still enjoy the experience that they are familiar with, Huawei uses the open source code from AOSP in HarmonyOS on the condition of complying with open source license rules and fulfilling related responsibilities and obligations, blah, blah, blah. That essentially means that, yeah, they're using Androids, they're using the Android operating system, and they're doing it because of, to make sure everything's compatible and it works, because HarmonyOS is simply Android. Now, we went into why they're doing that, but still, it's really hard to develop, an operating system. In fact, there's, kind of like a side article that isn't really listed here, I'm sure, but one that I was just thinking about. China's not really allowed to, they've been trying to move away from Windows, because obviously Windows has such a huge, market share that if you buy a computer, by and large, it's going to have Windows pre-installed on it. China has been trying to develop their own operating system, and every time anyone, kind of gets a look at it, because it's mainly used by like government officials and agencies, and getting some of those samples is really, really hard to do. But whenever they look at it, turns out it's just like a cracked version of Windows, and they just kind of replace the logos and the names on everything. It's really hard to develop an operating system, and that's why we haven't seen many competitors. Like Linux gets by because they have so many people contributing to it, and it's open source, and there's a lot of kind of side benefit that happens with Android. But for any one organization or country to kind of build out their own computer operating system that works with everything else that everyone else is developing, yeah, it's just the value proposition is not there. But, China's going to keep trying, that's for sure. So obviously, forking Android is not a big deal, and huge companies like Amazon do it for Fire OS. The difference is that Amazon is upfront about it by saying that Fire OS is a fork of Android. Huawei's developer documents don't reference Android and are mostly pure gibberish, and by that, they mean that there are paragraphs of buzzwords and circular links that don't actually communicate any technical information and about what the OS is or how it works. So there you go. The article goes on for quite a bit, and it's a great recap on that whole thing. So, but we're going to wrap it up by saying that Huawei was shipping smartwatches using Light OS, and today it's shipping smartwatches with HarmonyOS, which is based on Light OS. Yesterday, it was shipping phones and tablets using a forked version of Android without Google services, and today, Huawei is shipping HarmonyOS on phones and tablets, which is a forked Android without Google services. And the author asked the question, did anything actually change? And the answer is, well, they get to look like it did, even though, by and large, no, it definitely did not. So there you have it. Okay, so that was story number, story number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are now on story number 7. And we could do an E3 update. Let's talk about Apple and their AirTags, and something that I'm surprised that Apple didn't really confront before. So this is coming to us from Engadget. Miss Carissa Bell saying that Apple updates AirTags to address stalking concerns, which, when it comes to Bluetooth trackers, you would assume that stalking would be pretty high on the list. So Apple has updated AirTags in order to address privacy concerns associated with Bluetooth trackers. With the change, Apple is shortening the period of when an AirTag can be separated from its owner without making noise, saying that following up on our commitment to continue to provide AirTags privacy and security, starting today we will be updating the time period after which an AirTag that is separated from its owner will play a sound when moved. This time period is changing from 3 days to a random time between 8 and 24 hours. I actually like that a lot, that they're keeping it random. 8 and 24 hours. So they say that might sound like a minor change, but it's meant to address the concern that Apple didn't do enough to prevent AirTags from being used by nefarious people. The Washington Post reported that the previous 3-day window would make it scarily easy for a potential stalker to track a victim for days before they'd receive any kind of warning that an AirTag has been surreptitiously placed into their belongings. You can think about that, let's say someone is parked at the grocery store and they have their car windows cracked, and they decide to, kind of chuck in an AirTag into the back seat, and it rolls under the floorboard, or, how many people really check for that kind of thing. For 3 days, without a sound, without knowing, that person would know where that car went every moment of every day. And this is what they seem to be, wanting to crack down on. Now, to further allay privacy concerns, Apple is also planning an Android app that would help users detect an AirTag or Find My Network enabled accessory separated from its owner that might be traveling with a user. Importantly, it doesn't sound like the app is meant to give Android users full functionality of AirTags, but it would give non-iPhone users a way to look for unwanted trackers. On one hand, this places the onus on the potential victim to look for this, but on the other hand, it shows that Apple is responsive to privacy concerns. And obviously, if you use, that's for Android. If you use Apple, you can just turn on the setting to look for AirTags, and you would find them almost immediately in your vicinity if there are any that you don't know about. So, it's Tile has been used for these purposes. There have been a lot of other trackers. I think that, the way that they've changed it is actually very, very nice. I'm surprised it didn't go out that way to begin with. But hey, better late than never. Absolutely. We have time for like one, maybe two for quick. How about we talk about Norton? We don't talk about them a lot. Antivirus, not necessarily a thing of the past, but the need for a standalone privacy or security program is, kind of on the fence. Well, Norton is looking to add a little bit of value by turning their software into a cryptocurrency mining program. Check this one out. They say that in a surprise move, one of the world's best-known antivirus software makers is adding cryptocurrency mining to its products, saying that Norton 360 customers will have access to an Ethereum mining feature in the coming weeks, the company said. The company pitched the idea as a safe and easy way to get into mining in an important part of our customers' lives. And they even share a screenshot of what this would look like. They said that for years, many coin miners have had to take risk in their quest for cryptocurrency, disabling their security in order to run coin mining. And they say that that is true insofar as antivirus software packages often falsely identify widely used mining programs as dangerous, and the antivirus software often needs to be deactivated before you can then run the mining process. Norton also warns of allowing unvetted code on their machines and the danger of storing earnings on a hard drive, which could fail. So, looks like it's going to be running on your computer. It's going to use your resources and then put it in a pool that would then give you access on a Norton wallet. They give you right here. So the screenshot seems to suggest that the system will instead use a pool where a very large number of miners all contribute whatever computing power that they have and split the reward among how much work the machines did. But such pools almost universally take a percentage cut, a 1% of all earnings being a widely used standard. So the value proposition there is that, well, all of Norton's customers can then be used to mine cryptocurrency, but then Norton gets a 1% cut of that. Now, if Norton pursues such a model, it would, in effect, leverage its millions of customers' computers to generate a new income stream. Here's the problem. That work that's being done, it's not just idle computer time, but that's straight up electricity. That's straight up computer resources, and Norton services a lot of industrial customers. If, maybe industries are thinking that, we're going to make a quick buck by turning this on, on all of our 200,000 systems, that's a lot of electricity that they may not, realize that they're going to be using. And then obviously one thing that NFTs and cryptocurrencies have had to struggle with in these past couple of weeks is people, kind of realizing just how much greenhouse gas and emissions it takes to run these things. This is not a good move for the environment in general. So obviously the company told CNN it was considering adding other cryptocurrencies in addition to Ethereum in the future. The move has been met with some skepticism among technology enthusiasts. They mentioned that that one blog pointed out that in the United States, where Norton has a strong customer base, cryptocurrency income is taxable, reportable income, which casual miners running antivirus software may not be aware of. And another one from The Verge saying that offering free services for a while before asking for a subscription. They're talking about Norton being pre-installed on computers, saying it's easy to imagine a company, not necessarily Norton, offering cheap or even free computers if you just turn on your unused computing cycles into a recurring profit source of profit for the bloatware makers subsidizing your purchase. So Norton may be opening a door to where that's hard to close. And I guess what they're saying there is that you get a computer, you get to use it whenever you want. Just make sure that whenever you're not using it, you run our software in the background and we get to collect the cryptocurrency. So free computer, but essentially you would be forever paying for that software and that electricity in the unused computer cycles. So last thing would be a statement here from Norton saying that we are proud to be the first consumer cyber safety company to offer coin mining and the ability to safely and easily turn the idle time of their PCs into an opportunity to earn digital currency. Our customers can mine for cryptocurrency with just a few clicks, avoiding many barriers to entry in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. I'm looking forward to more information on this. This can go very, very bad, but at the same time, it would bring down a lot of barriers, and cryptocurrency would then be available to millions of users, especially here in the United States. Proliferation of the technology is not a bad thing, but do I trust Norton to be the one to roll it out? That's another question. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. That's all the time we have here for today. Until next time, we'll catch you here tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Everyone, have a great one. Bye.